Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where something very interesting has happened. So we have two massive global hits on our hands here. Jurassic World Rebirth, which is Hollywood's biggest global debut of the year so far. Hallelujah! And then also Netflix with Squid Game Season 3. Well, that's the streamer's biggest global debut of all time. It would seem that the planet Earth has not turned its back on Hollywood and still wants to be entertained by them. But is Hollywood up to the task? Because look at these audience scores. Uh-oh. Everybody showed up and then was disappointed. I mean, that's the second lowest cinema score for the Jurassic franchise ever. I mean, some of those movies, some of you don't like, but they still got pretty solid cinema scores. Both have very, very weak audience scores. I mean, they're not horrible, but they're not great. And ironically, those audience scores make both projects look like the kind of soulless corporate cash grabs that you would expect from these franchises' villains. In a situation like this, what happens? What happens, man? There's so much money, but yet there's a real danger of significant drop-off in the weeks to come. Well, I think the blame usually goes, nobody wants it, obviously. Hollywood is one big well, every business is like this. It's one old big game of hot potato. But the person usually left clutching that hot potato at the end when the music stops is the creatives. And that in this case would be Gareth Edwards and Hwang Dong-hyuk. So, I mean, you never know if some dumb studio exec messed things up for them. Hwang Dong-hyuk has been telling everyone that he had a very different ending in mind, thank you very much, for Squid Game Season 3, which was happier and more positive and did not leave room for a spin-off. But it's very hard to get a studio executive to take ownership of any mistakes. They'll blame the algorithm and stuff like that. They're like, well, you didn't have to listen to me. I mean, at the end of the day, here's the problem. The executive is employed. You know, it's a big deal to get rid of somebody who has a full-time job. But a creative is project-specific. Sometimes they have contracts. But in this case, you know, I doubt Gareth Edwards is contracted for more than one, and Squid Game is technically over. I mean, they'll both work again. Somebody will be like, I need a name on my project. I'll take it. I'll take you. Although it might be smaller projects than this. Hwang Dong-hyuk in particular, I mean, he invented Squid Game. Somebody's going to take a flyer on him for sure. But Edwards, he's just some dude that Uni picked to direct this movie, and he wasn't even their first choice. I mean, we even told them, we were like, he's wildly uneven. It worked out, right? But I suspect Universal will bring in a different director for the next installment. Does anybody raise your hand, or I guess type down below, does anybody was like, no, you got to bring Gareth Edwards back? I mean, I would think that those numbers would be small. But yes, Universal's D-Rex has proven to be prophetic. A horribly misshapen monster that's tough to look at, but what do you know? People always love a good freak show. So this rush job ended up doing the trick, at least at the box office. How does Universal keep getting away with it? Dinosaurs! And this time, also movie stars. One newly minted. Yes, this has got to be tremendously rewarding for the 3 stars of Jurassic World Rebirth. I'm so happy for them. I mean, they did their job. Even though the movie's not great, they didn't write it. They promoted the film and they helped sell tickets. You might be like, but wait a minute, maybe it is just the dinosaurs. Well, the movie did so well that I think, that's not how Hollywood works. They're going to say, hey, we paid for these stars and we got our money. I think that this makes all 3 of them look great. So let's go through them. Scarlett Johansson, who's had to sue people left and right in Hollywood. She's had such a tough time and never got a genuine shot at being Marvel's Black Widow. She was robbed. Is surely thrilled to not only have finally proven her worth as the lead of a blockbuster, but she did it without having to join social media. Remember, Universal was like, wouldn't you like to be on Instagram, ScarJo? And she said, no. And we were like, I was like, you better hope that movie does well, or they might say, if only you joined Instagram. But she held her ground, and it worked. And then also by starring in her dream franchise. Oh, dreams really do come true, even for movie stars. A tear, so sad, lovely. I love it. Tears of joy. All right, and speaking of Marvel, or in this case, almost Marvel, so close he can taste it. It's been a while, though, at this point. This has got to put a smile, a sly smile, on Mahershala Ali's face. Should he send Kevin Feige a little basket of something, maybe? Just with a little cheeky note? I'd be tempted. But at this point, I think Mahershala Ali should also maintain his dignity. I think Kevin Feige's been so mean to him. But here, the two-time Oscar winner has proven that he can do a blockbuster as well. As he's been looking to do this for a while now. He wants to broaden his experience and worth as a Hollywood actor. Could this maybe push Blade further a little bit? I don't know. At this point, I'd tell Mahershala. I mean, if it happens, it happens. It's like, someone who's been, speaking of flirting, been flirting with you for a long time. And you're like, you know what? There's nothing more I can do. I'm just going to live my life. And if it happens, it happens. That's what I would tell Ali to do. And also, he's definitely got Jurassic World Rebirth 2 on the way. Although, interestingly, even with Johansson and Ali added to this film, Jurassic World Rebirth still skewed male and brought in less black moviegoers than Dominion. It also needs to work a bit on attracting new younger viewers, but it's still doing very well with families. Interesting demographic breakdown. All right, then, Mr. Jonathan Bailey. Woo-hoo-hoo! Celebrate, everybody. This is big. Whose stock is through the roof right now at Universal. Don't be surprised if in the next few weeks, he not only ends up signing for another Universal film, but potentially, in addition, gets an overall first look deal with the studio to make whatever projects he might be interested in. He is really doing well over there. And this is not just a big deal for Bailey himself, but for openly LGBTQ talent in Hollywood. Bailey is in 2 major blockbuster franchises right now, playing a straight character in one and flirting up a storm with Johansson in the other. He's also making eyes and other things at the internet right now, in case you haven't noticed. What, are you blind? I didn't spot that in the actual movie, but I noticed it on social media. Now, Hollywood used to tell LGBTQ talent that if they came out of the closet, they'd only be able to play LGBTQ roles. But here's Bailey knocking down all the walls and ceilings in Hollywood for LGBTQ talent like a dinosaur. You're next, Katie O'Brien and Tremel Tillman. Who are you rooting for? What openly LGBTQ actors are you hoping that will level up next like Jonathan Bailey has? Okay, now let's take off our party hats and put our business hats back on and talk about exactly how well Jurassic World Rebirth did in theaters. And again, this is only its opening weekend. We'll see what the second weekend drop looks like. But right now, we're happy. And before we dig into the numbers, I also want to say how great it is for theaters and promising for the movie business that people still want to go out to the movies. Oh boy. We have a very interesting July ahead of us. All these movies could be huge hits. Wouldn't that be fabulous? But some might falter. I'll be there every step of the way, looking at it with a magnifying glass. And I hope you're right there with me. So be sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. All right, so for the past few years, Universal has put an animated movie out for the 4th of July holiday. But it seems the real money is in live action, with Jurassic World Rebirth running right with the front of the pack. And it's a very nice pack. Woo, rawr, I love it. These are all very, very close. I mean, some of them are number 1, some of them are behind, but they're all so close. It's just, yay, everybody. Next year, Universal has Minions 3 set to release for the 4th of July holiday, but Disney's live-action Moana is currently set for 1 week later on July 10th. But after this, if I were Disney, I'd move live-action Moana up to 4th of July. Take on Minions. I think it could. I really would do. I mean, I don't know. Let's see. But that's what I would do. All right. So the 5-day holiday weekend is long, and Hollywood has got to feel great that they're still a part of people's holiday plans. People still are like, let's throw a movie in there somewhere. Cool air conditioning and a fizzy soda and popcorn still have a siren call. All right. So that's why some of this stuff doesn't have to be that great. Hollywood's like, whoo! We've got the safety net of air conditioning, fizzy soda, and popcorn. And now, leather plush recliners. Please put your phone away. All right, so, please. All right, so for the Jurassic franchise itself, Jurassic World Rebirth is its second biggest global debut to date. Although, that's that's really not fair to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which had a very slow rollout globally across the entire month of June. It hit Europe at the beginning of June and the United States not until the end of June because it was trying to move around the Summer Olympics that were that year. But I mean, who cares? Again, who cares? Money for everybody. There's a lot of money in dinosaurs. But on that note, is Superman a meteor racing towards them? That's right, as Jurassic World Rebirth and F1 very patiently try to build their audiences, here comes Superman, potentially knocking them both down. We'll see. I mean, of course, summer movie seasons often have a copious amount of films, a plethora of movies. But they're usually spaced out a little bit better than this. This is a real traffic jam. But there's also the new problem of premium screens, as they become more and more of a factor of people's movie-going experience. And while Jurassic World Rebirth and F1 were able to split premium screens this weekend with Jurassic World Rebirth on the Dolby and F1 still on the IMAX, Superman's taken everything. It's taken all the screens. Dolby, IMAX, 4DX, AMC Prime, you name it. What did I miss out? What premium screen is your go-to that I didn't list? And then, even with the regular screens, Warner Brothers is surely going for a super wide release, which means the large regular screens will also go to Big Blue, relegating Jurassic World Rebirth and F1 to smaller regular screens, surely making some moviegoers feel that at that point, they might as well just wait for digital. I hate it when a movie I want to see gets booted down early to the tiny theater. I'm like, oh man! I missed my window to go see it again. F1 is in particular danger here because it's so reliant on the premium screen experience. Did anyone see F1 like on a regular screen? How was it? I saw F1 again this weekend on an IMAX and it was like an otherworldly experience. I mean, I feel like I almost levitated. It was incredible. You only have a couple of days left to go see it in IMAX. So I don't know. They really need to build more. It's ridiculous. It's anyone's guess what the Rotten Tomatoes score will be for Superman. DC has always had a difficult time with critics, although all superhero movies are now in danger when it comes to the Rotten Tomatoes critic score. James Gunn, though, has a good history with critics, but you know what? Again, we're in a weird space right now overall, and also 2 early reviews accidentally broke embargo, and they were negative. Well, one was fully broken embargo, and someone just kind of shared a sentiment. A sign of things to come, or just 2 outliers? It's impossible to tell. We're on pins and needles on this thing. There's so much riding on Superman, and there are so many unknown elements. That's, I think, one of the things that makes it kind of exciting. You're like, I really genuinely have no idea which way this is going to go. It's going to, I mean, I guess you'd say it's either going to be a spectacular success or a spectacular disaster. I don't think there is a middle ground, do you? But speaking of a wide range, the box office predictions are anywhere from a $90 to $170 million opening weekend. What a range. That's like almost $100 million range. I'm sure Universal and Apple, who is partnered with Warner Brothers, in fact, on F1, are hoping Superman is on the low side so their movies have at least some room to breathe. If it's at 170, all of their movies are dead. If it's doing that well, these movies will even lose theaters as the weekend progresses, with theaters just throwing Superman on as many screens as they can to just see how far they can push this thing. But we don't even know if that'll happen. Right now, for instance, there are plenty of good seats still left for Superman opening weekend. Maybe not Thursday and Friday night, but if you want to go on Saturday, even in the evening, you could still pick up great seats right now. And you might want to do that while you still can. We'll see. But walk-up business, of course, has become a huge part of the industry. Tuesday, that's a red letter day for Superman, because 2 things will happen. At 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the review embargo will lift, and we'll actually get a Rotten Tomatoes score. Then later that same day in the evening, the Prime Video early screenings will take place, and you'll start to get audience reactions. That might even generate a Rotten Tomato audience score to compete with whatever the critic score might be, either contrast from it or back it up. But again, while both of those things will have a huge impact surely on the movie's opening weekend, I think right now it's anybody's guess which way they're going to break. With Superman now less than a week away, do you have any idea which way it's going to go? Or do you also feel it's still a total wild card? As for F1, now in its 2nd week of release, gosh darn it, I sure wish this movie had a better second weekend hold. I mean, Sinners, another cinematic masterpiece, fell just 5% in its second weekend. Now that's extraordinary, and we couldn't hope for that for F1 as well. But I would have liked to drop in the 40s. I would have loved to drop in the 30s. If this had dropped just like 38%, oh my goodness, that would be exciting. But a drop in the 50s? Well, that doesn't exactly scream, hey, this movie is special. I think it is. I think it's very special. F1 is also, of course, heavily reliant on overseas appeal, where the racing sport is its most popular. But you know what? Look, I don't think that F1 is going to surpass World War Z at the rate that it's going. That's Brad Pitt's current biggest box office movie of all time. I don't even know if it's going to get to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Troy, or Ocean's 11 level, but I do think it'll probably end up somewhere in that range. It'll join that grouping. And, I think that it might pick some awards up down the line because it's an incredibly well-made movie. And also, since it's only doing okay, maybe people will feel sorry for it in the industry. They're like, I should have done better, should have gotten more attention. And they might vote for it, which would be great. I mean, if you do too well, of course, as we all know, the industry, like what happened with Barbie, said, hey, you got a ton of green, you don't need any gold to go with it. And hey, Apple's losing streak as a movie studio is over, and Warner Brothers has a nice little feather at its 2025 cap, which is getting awfully full, and the year's only halfway over. I thought Universal was supposed to be the preening peacock. I love it. And is this the Top Gun Maverick that it aimed to be? Not even close. But then again, Brad Pitt isn't Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is even having trouble being Tom Cruise these days. But Pitt, even though they came up together in Hollywood and were in a movie together, they're different actors. They're different brands, I mean, Pitt has never been able to sell the kind of tickets that Cruise has been able to do. And Pitt has 2 Oscars, while Cruise has none, although Cruise is about to get an honorary one. But Pitt won his outright. Everyone associated with F1 will work again, and deserves to. I'm particularly excited to see what Joseph Kosinski does next, director, because I think he's really become a phenomenal action director. There are rumors that Damson Idris might be heading over to Marvel. But F1, I think also, though, is another film that it's like, hey, maybe these budgets are a little out of control. But are they? Because as we enter the modern streaming age, and every studio has its own streaming service, again, maybe the ancillary market's back. A long time ago, movies made sometimes most of their money on a VHS and then later DVD. Maybe streaming will end up being that new thing, even though, again, streaming is a subscription situation. But there are digital purchases as well. Like, what will F1's value be by the time it works its way through the ancillary market, right? And maybe get some award noms and or wins for Apple. And then here, I think, is the biggest question, which is unique to this situation. What is it worth for Apple to finally be taken seriously as a movie studio? Maybe the answer is $200 to $300 million. Maybe Apple, at the end of the day, will say it was worth every penny to get into this conversation in a serious and respected way, right? Especially because this isn't even their main business. As for the rest of the top 10, Megan 2.0, also in its second weekend, plummeted and is already almost out of the top 10. This thing isn't even at 20 million domestic total, where in 2 weeks, while the first movie opened with 30 million. This has got to be a major wake-up call for Blumhouse to maybe step on the brakes a little bit, because other studios, it used to be like Warner Brothers was really big in horror, and then Jason Blum came along with his deal with Universal and kind of like, shifted the scales a little bit. But now, because horror is at an all-time high as a genre, so many other people are getting into it. And I think the current trend, I'd be curious what really hardcore horror fans feel, what your input is on this. But I feel like right now the trend is auteur horror films. Now, to be fair, Jason Blum did take significant risks with this sequel, but they still seem kind of corporate-y, kind of businessy. They don't have that auteur flavor to them. What is your impression of Blumhouse these days? To me, they still seem very much like a horror factory stamping out cookie-cutter films. Meanwhile, I don't know if they could become auteur. If you want to, the key to longevity is the ability to evolve. Just ask Madonna, right? She hit a wall eventually, but she had a really good run there. I think it's somebody should give that advice to Jason Blum. Meanwhile, How to Train Your Dragon and Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning are both, they're not going to get anywhere near close to $1 billion, but they're around $500 million. That's pretty good. This year, they should take it. And also, they're close to the double century mark domestic, which is very nice. Elio, though, is just not finding an audience, despite great audience scores. But even more so, I want to touch on this because there's a big expose that came out this past week about the film. I didn't do any lives this week, so I didn't get a chance to discuss it with you, but I do think it's important to bring it up. I think that Pixar clearly does not have its house in order, with employees so unhappy they're not only willing to talk to the press, but some of them talk to the press on record. That is incredible. It would seem to me, reading this expose, link down below if you want to check it out yourself if you haven't seen it, that Pixar is too tightly clutching its creative hat while parent company Disney is too tightly clutching its business hat. How does one make an extremely progressive film that has to recoup a budget of 150 to 200 million? If anyone can figure that out, I would think it would be Pixar, but they have yet to do it. Now, Disney and Pixar leadership clearly interfered with Elio, but they didn't on Lightyear and Turning Red, and those also had issues returning on their investment. I hope Pixar can get its house in order and make a movie that everyone at the studio is satisfied with, at the parent company is satisfied with, and that audiences are satisfied with. That is what Pixar used to be able to do, and I'm confident they will be able to do it again. What are your thoughts on this situation? It's very interesting. We'll see. 28 years later also continues to drop considerably, as does Materialists, although I think Materialists is, that's not a great number for Materialists either, but I think it's doing better than 28 years later. Either way, both of these should be on digital pretty soon. Over on streaming, as usual, we'll start with Nielsen, this time for early June. And I want to take a moment, though, to cover something that I missed last week. And that is that The Last of Us Season 2, with its finale, totally fell out of the overall chart. Because, it's the Nielsen chart is Monday to Sunday. And, of course, HBO airs its shows on Sunday night. So the very week after it was wrapped, you would think there would be some binge bump, or even just people who hadn't got a chance to watch the finale the night that it aired and picked it up Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Just totally fell off the overall. That's incredible. Neil Druckmann and other Naughty Dog creatives abandoned season 3 last week, saying they need to go back to focusing on Naughty Dog's upcoming games. But I think the truth is that if The Last of Us, the show, was still a winner, they would still want to be associated with it. Some fans have pointed out that it was particularly cowardly of Druckmann to jump ship now when it was his idea to take the story down this road not once, but twice, even after he knew how it went the first time. I really liked the cutscenes on the first game, but I think that the way they decided to present it they made change. It does not work. I think that the second game, I actually think the story is genius, but that has not been captured in the live action adaptation. And now, though, with Druckmann jumping ship, Craig Mazin and both actresses who are getting heavily criticized, both legitimately but also toxically, are left all alone for the third season with no one from the game studio to legitimize them and to protect them. That is really bad. Will HBO still make The Last of Us Season 3, which has not yet gone into production? With these substantial losses, viewership, and Druckmann, now more than ever, I've been saying for a while now they shouldn't make it, but now more than ever, I'm convinced they should not greenlight the third season. Would you? And also, nice try, Druckmann. You and Mazin, it's too late for you. You've already joined the ranks of Benioff and Weiss and infamy. And Benioff and Weiss have yet to be able to come back from that. All right, so as for this week's Nielsen charts, on the overall chart, the most interesting thing is here is that Amazon made the bold choice to skip going to digital with The Accountant 2 and put it straight on their streaming service as an exclusive. And as you can see, that worked out very well for them. Oh, subscribe, baby. Subscribe for The Accountant 2. Did anyone here subscribe to Amazon Prime Video so you could watch The Accountant 2? Department Q is still doing respectable numbers, but the longer it takes to get that news of a second season, the less likely I think it is that we're going to get one. I just don't think anyone's really talking about it. I just, I don't know. I really liked it. I think Matthew Good, he's so talented. He was in The Offer. He played Robert Evans, but he just can't connect. All right, on the originals chart, things are so slow right now that Stranger Things is back on here. You know why it's back on here? Because this was the week that they dropped the release date trailer with a couple of teases for the 5th and final season. And it's been 3 years since the last Stranger Things. So clearly people are like, time to catch up. I mean, that's a lot of Stranger Things to watch. Are you going to catch up before the final season? And then on the movies chart, you can see here that the bottom fell out of Captain America 4 just 1 week after it hit Disney+. Things are really popping over on Netflix, though, and boy, were they right to invest so heavily in Korea, which is really paying off for them. In the movie space, you've got K-pop Demon Hunters at a very strong number 1. Oh, couldn't happen to a better movie. It's doing great. While with shows, as I said, Squid Game Season 3 had a huge debut. How huge? Well, it's the first ever Netflix show to drop that's as number 1 in every single country where the service is available. That's 93 countries it was number 1. It is also the most watched show ever in the first 3 days for the service worldwide. And it pulled seasons 1 and seasons 2 back into the top 10. But as I said, people don't like it, right? So it'll be interesting to see what the viewership is like over the next week or so. Netflix, though, is hoping to jump over to an American version of the games next. Why wouldn't they be playing American schoolyard games? It makes no sense to me. But anyway, people are really not feeling that, at least so far. I mean, I don't know. David Fincher, if he did indeed get the gig, that's pretty good. But anyway, did Squid Game just actually implode before our eyes in spectacular fashion? Like The Last of Us just did, you know? And again, we told everybody we didn't like, and people said, we don't like the way things are going. I mean, I said from the very beginning, I thought Abby was miscast. And we're telling them, this so far, the American games don't look right. So we'll see if they listen. Game of Thrones, though, eventually did manage to claw its way back. Kind of. I think it's back. I think it's doing well. Then with English language shows on Netflix, The Waterfront is still number 1, but I don't think Taylor Sheridan, who Netflix is trying to copy here, needs to be worried. I liked it, but it's just like Department Q. It's just not a sensation. And Netflix is like, we're in the sensation business. Thank you very much. Then over on digital with Apple's charts, while Thunderbolt started out the week as number 1, interestingly, Ballerina has overtaken it. Marvel just can't get a good headline these days, as disinterest continues to grow for the franchise. Both are actually really good movies, in my opinion, with very strong female leads. But Thunderbolts will eventually be available at no extra cost on Disney+. As for this coming week, it's finally here, Superman! And after so much talk, James Gunn will finally have to let his movie do the talking for him. Meanwhile, Jurassic World Rebirth and F1 will hold on for dear life as they try to see if they can not just get totally blown away. But there's little new competition for Superman to contend with. Tyler Perry isn't letting his real-life drama slow him down, as Medea's Destination Wedding, that could be big, hits Netflix also on Friday. And Disney, I think that's a great pairing with Medea. And Disney Plus has another of their zombie movies for the preteen set. And maybe some of you who are not preteen, don't be ashamed if you like the Disney Plus zombie movies. And then with shows, there's a little more here. But not much. On Wednesday, Prime Video has its Bosch spin. I don't even know how to pronounce Bosch because I don't watch that, but somebody does because now it's getting a spin-off called Ballard with Maggie Q. While It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia returns for season 17. Ka-ching! The royalty checks on that show must be just incredible. Zazzy's reality TV influence exerts itself on Max on Thursday. I can't believe that's a real show. While Hulu launches, although that might work in its favor, people are like, I gotta see this. While Hulu launches Suspicious Minds. Then on Friday, Apple TV brings Foundation back for season 3, while Prime Video drops a true crime documentary series about the murders in Idaho, where Brian Kohnberger just pled guilty. And also on Friday, Netflix will go live with another boxing match, but this time with 2 female competitors as the main event. They were, I think, a sub-event for the last big boxing match, but this time it's all about them. So like I said, though, the only thing that I can see getting in the way of Superman is Superman. Maybe Jurassic World Rebirth at F1? I don't think so. Because again, there are seats available. I mean, if you want to see Superman, you could see it. All right, so that's this week's movie math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And where do you think Superman will fall in that $90 to $170 million range for what Hollywood thinks it might open at. Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.